Welcome back. Right, so this is where we are, the Volkswagen Motorsport Workshop. And needless to say, I feel a little hijacked. That's because, as Sirish mentioned some time back, most of the cars that need to go into racing are hijacked from the body shop and brought here so that it's built into that mean machine. Who better than Sirish to take us through a guided tour of this place and give us a good lowdown on how these cars are built. Are you ready, Sirish?
Absolutely.
Let's go. Wow, this looks wonderful. So, Sirish, this is where it all starts from?
Oh, absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, we hijack a bare body shell from the body shop. Then we've got a little bit of work to do with it. So we have to put the roll cage in. Right. And we also strengthen the body shell.
Right, because I see a lot of extra welding done over here actually.
Absolutely. Those are all the extra welding that we do because the car is going to be tortured a lot more on the racetrack than it ever will as a road car. So we strengthen it by welding all of the seams. It's called stitch welding.
Right.
So we do that to strengthen the body shell. So once we do that, put the roll cage in, then we paint it in our paint booth next door.
Right.
And once we are done with that, basically it comes here and we start putting the rest of the car together.
Right, so this is part one of a very long and lengthy process.
Absolutely.
Right, as you see the car coming down, it will give us a better picture of what all rather has to be done to the car. So this is the body that's actually there with the normal Vento car as well that you see on the road.
Exactly. The body shell starts off with as the same as a road car, but once we add in all the roll cage, for example, that you can see inside, and do all the strengthening, that's what differentiates it from the regular Vento.
And now you've got to assemble everything into it to make it up.
Yeah, we put in now all of the race car parts that actually make it a monster on the racetrack.
So where's the operation table now? We need to go there and have a look at all the parts.
So we go over here.
Right.
As you can see here on this table, we've laid out all of the parts that go into this car that make it a race Vento.
All right.
Okay. We build up all the systems into sub-assemblies, and then when we put the sub-assemblies into the race car, it's a lot easier for us to manage because half the work is already done. So this front subframe assembly is exactly what it is in the road car. The changes are where in the road car you have a very soft rubber bush so that you don't get the road noise and the ride is very comfortable. Here, because we are not worried about the ride quality or the noise coming in, we run a racing quality rubber bushes which are much stiffer. Okay. They also help the driver feel what the car is doing better.
Okay.
Right? So we've got that. Then we've got like the front knuckles. This is what the wheels get bolted onto and hold the entire suspension together. We've got the dampers. We are more interested in making the car go very quickly around the corner than making the ride very comfortable and luxurious. So the dampers are much stiffer, the springs are much stiffer than what you would have on the road car.
Okay.
And because it's a race car, we also run it as low as possible. It affects the handling. The lower the car is, the better it goes around corners because the center of gravity height comes down, right? The other thing that is different in the race car compared to the road car is the ABS unit. Okay. So while we have ABS just like you do on the regular road car, the one that we have in the race car is a lot better in terms of it responds quicker, and because the tires generate a lot more grip, it has to have different logic in it for it to work properly. So we've got the ABS unit, and alternator, you've got radiator also, because now we are putting out 180 horsepower as against about 107 horsepower for the road car. So a lot more power, lot more heat generated by the engine, so it takes a much bigger radiator to cool it down. So then we've got the fuel tank assembly, you've got in the back over there, you've got the rear axle.
Right, see that, yes.
Along with the rear brake discs fitted. Again, the rear brakes on this car we have disc brakes, on the road car we have drum brakes because we need a lot more braking on a race car.
Right, I get it.
Yeah, so we've got that, and then over here you've got hanging our engine and gearbox assembly. Like I said, we put it all together beforehand so that it's easier for us to put it in. So the engine is the 1.4 TFSI, which is a twin charger, so it's got a turbo and a supercharger, and it puts on 180 horsepower, 250 Newton meters of torque, so it's quite a powerful engine.
Right.
And it's connected up to our DSG gearbox. It's a 6-speed gearbox. It's an automatic transmission, but DSG technology is unique to Volkswagen, and it allows you to shift the transmission like you would in a manual car with paddles on the steering wheel. And again, that while it starts off life as a normal gearbox, When it comes here, we have to do something more with it. Different programming in it. It's got a limited slip differential, which you need for a race car. And so all of this together, you know, that's what makes this car drive out of the corners as well as it does and get the top speeds of over 200 kilometers an hour on the racetrack.
Wow, that was a very broad perspective into the nitty-gritties that goes into making a racing car. But the one question that keeps coming to mind, you know, for every racing enthusiast before he takes up the sport is about the safety and how secured he is within the car.
See, the one thing for us, you know, it is the utmost importance is safety of the driver.
Right.
So this same sort of philosophy that we apply to our road cars, we apply to our race cars. As we mentioned earlier, we have the roll cage that we put into the chassis.
Right.
So the roll cage helps to improve the rigidity of the structure and also keeps the driver safe in terms of an accident. But more than the roll cage, behind me over here, we've got the racing seat.
Wow.
Right? This is an FIA approved racing seat. FIA is the governing body for motorsport internationally. Okay, and so they've got standards that they've set in place for different safety products that we use. So we start off with the racing seat, which is FIA approved. We've got racing seat belts, which are again FIA approved. One of the things that we have in this car again is the onboard fire extinguisher. So in case of a fire, the driver has a button on the dashboard that he can push or she can push, and it sets the extinguisher off, and there's one nozzle pointed in the cockpit so that the driver is protected, and there's other nozzles in the engine compartment to douse any fuel fires or anything that may
Wonderful.
be there.
Right. You did mention the extra welding that you
Yeah, absolutely. So the extra welding, so all of these things together, in addition to all of this, you know, our drivers, all of them use FIA approved racing overalls, which are fireproof, along with fireproof innerwear. They also run an FIA approved helmet, which is again rated for, specifically made for racing. So it can handle multiple impacts inside the car. And in addition to that, they run what's called a Hans device, which fits under the seat belts, attaches to the helmet. So in case of a frontal impact, then you have the Hans device keeps the neck from extending, and it prevents them from getting whiplash.
Right,
So
okay.
all of these features add up to a very, very
You
safe.
convinced me. If
Absolutely.
I have to take up motorsport, I'll say thank you, Sirish.
Great.
I'm in for it. As simple as that.
So when can we expect you to drive a car?
As I'm getting out of this place, I'll be taking one of them and going, to be very honest. But clearly, one more aspect that I'd like to touch upon. Sometime back in the first segment, you did mention that all cars, when they come on the grid, they are equal.
Yes.
What did you mean by that? I mean,
Because all the cars are built, maintained and serviced by Volkswagen Motorsport, we know exactly what parts are going into every single car. But just by putting the right parts in, we are not always sure that we're going to get the same result. So on all the cars, we have an onboard data acquisition system, which records a lot of different parameters off of various systems on the car. And this then, we record the data, we analyze it, and you know, it's more than just a car. Again, in a one-make championship, the car is one aspect of it, but you've also got the drivers. So we have two jobs. We need to make sure the cars are even. At the same time, we also need to make sure that we bring drivers up to the same level in terms of performance. So we use this system and the data that we get out of it to achieve this. And I think, you know, my colleague Prasad, who is our race engineer, will be the best person to explain it. So we hand it over to Prasad.
So let's see what's data analysis for race drivers. We use Race Studio software, which is developed by AIM Sport. This is used to see what the car is doing when it's on the track, and it also helps drivers to see how their inputs are with respect to the other drivers, or let's say quicker drivers, and also helps us to see how the cars are behaving in terms of engine performance and brakes and suspension, etc., etc. So once we have the data downloaded, you go to the analysis software, that's this, and you'll have the data from all the cars listed here. So we open car number 19 and you'll see the lap times there. That's starting from first to up, he's done 9 laps, and you see individual lap times and his quickest also highlighted. And you take the next slowest or second fastest driver, and you compare the parameters. Basically, these are all the driver inputs. That's your brakes, your gas pressure, your gear inputs, your speed. And all of this is compared against the distance. So at any point in the track, you can see what your inputs are against the quicker driver. This is from the driver's point of view, and from the engineer's point of view, you have other parameters like you have boost pressure and all of this for us to analyze and see what the car is behaving, and also make sure that all 21 cars that are on the grid are putting out the same performance.
You know, especially for drivers who are starting out, they get to compare their data with the faster drivers, so they know where they're losing out, they know what to fix. I think the data plays a huge role in driver development.
It tells you where you're braking, it tells you where you're losing time, what's your steering angle, what's your gas pressure, what's your RPM, what's your gear. And every session we get, Volkswagen provides us with data analysis, and they have done, I think, an exceptional job, because, you know, whenever we get out of the car, I think after 15 or 20 minutes, the data is ready and it's in our hands. And we can go through it and see where we're doing mistakes and rectify that in the next session.
It lets us know where we are losing time and where we are gaining time. So you can precisely point out your mistake, and then you'll be able to figure out your mistakes and, you know, compare it with the other driver who's getting it right, and then you know, get that point of a second, that 0.1 or 0.2 of a second, and then improve your lap times altogether.
Well, the ultimate feel for a racing enthusiast like me will be to sit in that racing car and go for that spin. But there's still some time for it. That's because it's nearing its completion stage. Final touch-ups, but all of that on the other side of a short break. Stay tuned, don't go anywhere.